President John Quincy Adams was a firm believer in what was called the American system. This was a plan first instituted by Republicans in Congress in 1816. It required the federal government to take certain bold steps to make the United States a stronger nation. A key part of this plan was to have the government make important improvements in the nation's transportation system. One of these improvements was the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal, seen here. When President John Quincy Adams broke ground for this canal on July 4, 1828, it was envisioned as a great national project that would increase the speed that materials could be transported between the Atlantic seaboard and the nation's interior. It connected Washington, D.C., and the great national road that began at Cumberland, Maryland, which at that time was the country's main route to the west. For many years, a steady stream of barge traffic, loaded with valuable cargoes such as grain and coal, moved up and down the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal. However, by the time it was completed in 1850, the use of canals for transportation was already being supplanted by much faster steam-powered railroads, and the canal was rapidly becoming obsolete. The same year construction began on the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal, Congress took another bold step intended to promote the nation's well-being when it passed a very high tariff, or tax, on imported goods. The tariff was enacted to protect the factories of New England from overseas competition by making foreign products more expensive than their American counterparts. But the owners of southern slave plantations hated it. They called it the Tariff of Abominations, abomination being a word that means disgusting or loathsome. The reason they hated it was that a large percentage of southern agricultural products, mainly cotton, was sold overseas. In payment instead of money, they often received finished goods, such as woven cloth, and the tariff on these goods was a major expense. Southerners believed that the owners of northern factories were growing richer at their expense. They also thought that by imposing the tariff, the federal government was interfering with their rights. Besides that, many white Southerners were beginning to fear that the government might also try to outlaw slavery itself, and that was something they would not tolerate. And so, with the Tariff of Abominations tearing away at the fabric of national unity, another election was held in which Andrew Jackson soundly defeated John Quincy Adams for the job of President of the United States. And with that, a new era in American history began.